Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. Established in 2014, DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by the Lemmix family. Ed, Courtney, and their son Brett. Ed graduated from FSU in 1979, Brett in 2009. Lifelong fans and Florida State boosters, the Lemmixes attend multiple football games every year where you can find them tailgating near the Unconquered statue. Pull up a chair and pour yourself a Palafox Place. Named after the main hub, Palafox Place in downtown Pensacola, DeLuna has combined a Brazilian, Colombian, and African bean to give it just the right flavor. This coffee can be enjoyed any time of the day. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hujavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It's fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. That's the slogan. The promo code is WarChant15. The promo code saves you 15% on your order from DeLunaCoffee.com. If you're in a rush, you don't want to wait for it to get delivered to your house, I get it. It's really good stuff. Check out your local Publix. If you're like on the I-4 corridor north, you can usually find it. Publix has got like this shop local end cap at the aisles. Usually they got some of that good, great DeLuna on there, so check it out. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, promo code WarChant30. Thumbs up on the YouTube, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Corey Clark, speaking of the good stuff, here, present, and accounted for. Corey, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing? You doing all right? You have a good weekend?
Yes, I did. How about you? Your weekend can be summed up with positive adjectives, I hope?
Sure. Did nothing on Saturday, which was fine.
Awesome.
No worries there. And then a little behind the curtains here. I before we recorded this show, I was on a walk. Still getting over COVID. Hadn't really bothered me much. Got a little bit of a cough still, but lingering. But otherwise, I feel almost mostly fine. Can't taste either, but
still
not really. I can taste like 30% of things.
Okay.
I can still see and hear though, which are the more important senses than taste and smell. So anyway, like a dummy, I'm on a walk and I decide, I feel good. It's cold. I want to get back sooner. Let me go run. And I don't run much, but I decided to run, and I've had a coughing fit ever since. It's like my lungs and my chest weren't ready for that, didn't want that, and are mad at me. So if I cough, I'm sorry, everyone.
We're not in the same room, everybody, so it's all right. I'll be fine. I know you're all worried about that. Hope you get better soon, though, man. But and I was going to ask you, it was going to be like a winter wonderland up in did it snow at the Clark Manor in North Atlanta? Do we know? Do we have boots on the ground up there?
We don't have boots in my yard, but yes, it did snow everywhere else, so I assume it made it to my house, too. Brady and Shanna had a snowball fight. So,
nice.
Yeah, I got a little snow. My mom got some. It's cool.
Okay, very cool.
It's a bit of a bummer for Brady that, Monday today would have been a snow day, but it's MLK Day, so he was going to have it off anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like it used to snow like once every 7 years on the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like when Georgia, you only get one snow day a year. You want it to fall on a Thursday or a Friday.
Yeah. I forgot somebody commented last week about love the show. Wish I didn't have to wait 50 minutes to hear about basketball. To which I say, touche. We do put in the notes every episode, everybody. There's timestamps, tells you what we talk about at what point in the show. Not 110% accurate because depending on what you're listening us on, the commercials kind of run a little bit different, so it might knock it back a minute or two. But nonetheless, what is this now? Is this 3 wins in a row for Florida State on the hardwood, Corey? 76-71 over Syracuse in frigid upstate New York. I mean, they're on a bit of a streak here, Corey. Seems like they tried to do everything they could, though, on those last few possessions to let Syracuse back in, but ultimately come up with a stop and then are able to do that nice heave down the floor and get a flush to kind of salt it away. Your thoughts on Florida State, maybe in the midst here of a little bit of a resurgence, maybe a little bit of a renaissance, at least on the macro sense of getting this thing figured out this season. 76-71 over Syracuse.
Yeah, it was a good win, especially without Malik Osborne, who had a sprained ankle and didn't play. Leonard said he didn't think he probably wouldn't be able to play against Duke on Tuesday, which is not good news. But, yeah, man, it's a good win. It's three in a row and 4 out of their last 5, going back to the win at NC State on New Year's Day. So other than the Wake Forest loss, which was an ugly one, yeah, they kind of found themselves a little bit. But, yeah, overall it was a good win. You know, Mills shot well. Raekwon Evans had a really nice game, kind of built on the free throws he made against Miami. And then Wyatt Wilkes and Harrison Prieto had easily their best games of the season. Prieto doesn't ever play. You know, he's a walk-on that was only in the game because Osborne wasn't playing. They tried Quincy Ballard. That didn't work. They tried other things. That didn't work. And they finally, with like 9 minutes left in the second half, were like, we're riding with Harrison. And he was really good on defense. He really helped them on defense a lot. He had 3 steals, and all of a sudden Syracuse stopped getting wide open looks.
Other than that pass that he really kind of put White in a tough spot on a turnover. But
yeah, that was
can't have them all. I get it.
Yeah, but that was a really bad pass. The reason it was a bad pass, and to set it up, so Florida State, I think, had a 1-point lead maybe at that juncture, trying to get any shot, any good look they can. They've been getting good looks the whole second half. They've been getting good looks with Prieto in the game. But, yeah, he tried to bounce pass to Wilkes, where even if Wilkes had caught it, what's he going to do there? You know, he's 3 feet from the basket, almost behind the backboard, with 2 bigs near him. I think he was like trying to cut to just get out of the way, and then Harrison threw him the ball. So, but yeah, other than that, he made every right decision. He defended well. He defended well late. He calmed everything down. Syracuse went on their run. Ballard got lost at on the perimeter, gave up a couple of open threes, and then they said, well, let's go with the 6th-year guy. He's not as athletic, he's not as tall, but he knows where he's supposed to be, and that changed the complexion of the game, I thought.
Otherwise, I mean, is it Occam's razor on this core? Is it simply Florida State just shot well from 3? If they can shoot well from 3, they'll be all right. Because don't look now, everybody. Watch out. Florida State's currently 4th right now in the ACC.
Yeah.
That would get them a double bye if I'm not mistaken, right?
Sure.
So
sure.
I know it's early January, but still. So that was one thing that you had pointed out during this bit of a malaise they had towards the end of last year, calendar year, that is, everybody. But if they can shoot well from 3-point, and they got, White did his job, and Caleb Mills obviously was quite efficient, going 5 of 6, and Raekwon Evans hitting some good free throws again too towards the end of the game, some clutch shots. Is it all about the 3-point shooting for this team, just like pretty much everybody feels like in this day and age?
Well, it's a lot of it. Like when you go 12 of 20, when you shoot 60% from 3, you should win the game. And they did, so they did what they were supposed to do. But it just shows, like, they just blew the Syracuse game. If they would have just shot the first one, if they'd have just shot normally in that game, they win by double digits. But they were 4 of 30, which is almost hard. That's hard to do if you're trying to bank them all in. If you just call glass and try to bank in threes from all over the court, you should have 4 out of 30. Excuse me. So I think I try to mute it usually, folks, but I'm doing the best I can here. But in that particular game, man, yeah, they got good looks. They made the extra pass to get open threes. I would say only one of their makes was just like Caleb Mills being Caleb Mills, like a step back at the end of the shot clock, bury a 3. All the other ones came on assists. Get the ball inside, kick it out, wide open look. And they did what they're supposed to do. They knocked down open shots. Polite even made one finally. Maybe that'll get them going. But yeah, I thought overall offensively they handled that zone about as well as you could hope. And then defensively, look, man, they got issues when they're having to play young guys. They don't play together a lot. And then Malik Osborne, who's probably your most solid defender, just because he knows he's the most athletic guy that knows where he's supposed to be.
Yes.
He might not be the most athletic guy on the team, but this is his 3rd year, his 4th year in the system. So, like, Harrison might know where he's supposed to be as well as Malik, but he's not Malik athletically. Same with Wilkes. Osborne's the guy that knows where he's supposed to be and is athletic enough to alter shots and get defensive rebounds. With him not on the floor, it was a real grind on the defensive end. And for most of the game, Syracuse shot like 54%. But when it mattered, man, those last 2 possessions, Florida State got those stops, man. That was That was good to see. And yeah, Cleveland is still, he's a freak, man. The more you watch him, the more you wonder, man, it'd be awesome if he stayed for his second year, but he is so gifted athletically that it might be hard for him to stay an extra year.
What do you think about the whole subbing him in, like, defensively towards the end of the game, and not just leaving him out there the entire time? Is my guys not developed enough offensively to be on the floor the entire time?
Well, so it was offense, defense with Wilkes. He's probably the best rebounder on the team when Osborne isn't there, but I think they wanted the threat of Wilkes shooting a three because Wilkes had already made three. So if Cleveland's out there, they're going to let Cleveland shoot a three. He's made three all season. Wilkes, it affects the defense to have Wilkes on the base. And Wilkes played really well just in general, not just because he made shots. He made extra passes. He kept the ball moving. I just thought he played really well. But I think against the zone in a half-court set, Wyatt Wilkes was a bigger problem for Syracuse than Matthew Cleveland was. You know what I mean? Because you got to have a guy that can knock down threes, and Wilkes had proven he could. So that's why they did that. And then on defense, Wilkes just, he's limited in some of the things he can do. And Cleveland is a much better athlete.
Fair enough. And that sets it up for Tuesday then, Corey. Twilight at the Tucker, 9 p.m. tip against Duke.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. What's with that? I guess everybody work up into a proper lather for that one. 8th ranked Duke. I mean, if you look at the schedule right now, again, it's the second week of January, what have you. That's the only ranked team on Florida State's schedule. So, and I mean, they're going to go to Cameron in February to play them, so they'll get a rematch, and they'll have 2 of those opportunities. But obviously, playing at home gives you your best shot at it. Just how much more confident do you feel now versus 2 weeks ago about this? I mean, obviously, it was going to be a huge game no matter what, but it seemed kind of like hoping against all hope they'd be able to pull it out. But have you seen enough here in the last 3 games, 4 out of the last 5, that you think, all right, man, there's a path forward with all this, especially if they can get Malik back? Or do they definitely need Malik back to be able to hang into this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that, but it's going to be really hard even with Malik. But without Malik, you just that was a great matchup. Not a great matchup, but that was as good a matchup as you could hope for without having Osborne, because Syracuse is, unlike years past, they're not very athletic. They're slow-paced, which if you want to play a walk-on 15 minutes and you want to play Wyatt Wilkes 23 minutes, that's a perfect matchup for those guys. Because they're not overwhelmed athletically, and it's a defense where they can get open looks. Well, that's not the case against Duke. Duke is, as always, freakish athletes that, they have, 2 or 3 lottery picks. They have probably 4 guys that will play in the league. And if you don't have Osborne, who's one of your best athletes, that's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's impossible. Shoot well, play good defense, but you're going to have a hard time rebounding anyway. And without your leading rebounder, that's going to make it hard. Not impossible. You're at home. You win a lot there. And Duke isn't unbeatable. We've seen that already. And they haven't shown the ability to play great on the road. And this will be, I think, the toughest road environment they played in so far in their careers for these freshmen. So it's a winnable game. It's going to be hard without Malik, because Malik is so good, so good defensively. He's a knockdown shooter, your best rebounder. He knows where he's supposed to be. He's a 30-minute-a-game guy, and now you got to spread those minutes out with guys like Ballard and McLeod and Wilkes and Prieto, who aren't. Am I saying that right? You think Prieto?
I love it. I hope it's right, Harrison, because I'm not going to stop him from saying it.
It sounds like I'm doing what one of those news anchors do.
Yeah, I love it
when they're like a quinceañera. When they're speaking, and it was the 15-year-old's, it was her family's quinceañera, and then they go back to their normal. Like it sound, every time I say Prieto, I sound like I'm almost making fun of the name. I think it's Prieto.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I don't know that he's Spanish, so I don't know why I'm putting you know what I mean?
On there. Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I worry. Prieto. Here it's Prieto, folks. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm gonna just start saying Harrison.
Okay.
The Weatherman. That's his nickname.
All right. It is. It really is. I mean, he's. I thought the Viper Squad. I thought they used all their eligibility, but they're super seniors on steroids.
Oh yeah, and Linder too.
Metaphorically steroids. Yeah,
so But that was cool, man. They wouldn't have won that game without him.
Yeah.
And there's never been. You think about how long he's been on this team in this league, putting in all that work, which he does. I mean, he's at practice every day, practicing as hard as the other guys. For him to actually win a game for the team is really cool, man. That's a neat thing to see. For him to have a moment like that on the road, made a couple nice buckets, one late, and then what he did defensively, man, was just that's the reason they won the game. So that was cool to see. But Duke's a whole different animal.
Yeah. I remember then somebody on Renegade Express wanted us to talk about culture with the basketball players and mentioned Lindner. And it's like, hey, maybe Prito, maybe he heard that. He's like, oh, what am I, chopped liver? You guys talk to Wyatt? You guys are going to talk to Justin? What about Harrison? What about the weatherman?
Yeah,
so,
you're right. You're right. And it's not the first time he's played in a real ACC game, not in garbage time. But it's by far the most extensive action he got. It was out of desperation, but it was he equipped himself really well, man. I thought he was he was the difference in the game. I mean, Mills shooting 5 out of 6 certainly helped, 12 out of 20 from 3, but if they don't start getting stops on defense, none of that would have mattered. And they only started getting stops when they put Harrison in the game.
We pivot now, but we don't shuffle our feet when we do that, and talk a little about football here. Lots going on this weekend. NFL playoffs, Super Wild Card Weekend. Quick thoughts on Super Wild Card Weekend. Would have liked to seen like a triple header on Saturday, personally, instead of throwing a game on Monday night, but I guess we'll take it whatever we can get. Didn't watch all the games on Saturday, but I'm kind of excited. Kind of excited to see New England get neutered like that. That was kind of cool. I like.
Yeah, that was incredible. Who would have thought that? And it's cool that the Bills fans just throw whatever they want on the field. Hopefully that'll become a tradition.
Oh man!
Start selling those in the team store. Yeah. But when I was watching that, I was talking with my buddy Tim about that. Like, so this is like the blueprint for what college football can do, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
14 teams, the top 2 get a bye, and then you play. You have your playoff weekend, 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday, however you want to do it, and then reconvene in another week and do it again. Right?
Yeah. Why not? Not?
I guess the thought with 12 is that 4 teams get a bye, but why not 14? That's 2 more teams that get in. So that's 2 more teams where their best players aren't opting out of your bowl games. That makes 1 extra bowl game that's viable and watchable and competitive, you hope. But also, if there's 14 teams in the playoffs, how many teams going into that last weekend of the season are competing for a playoff spot? 20?
Absolutely, right? Yeah, no.
Well, there'll probably be like 8 that are in no matter what.
Oh.
So then you wonder, okay, but then Florida's not going to rest their players if they're playing Florida State or vice versa.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the point being, it makes every game eminently more important. Like all those games on the last weekend, you have.
But are we robbing Peter to pay Paul though? Like, are we taking the juice out of September and October to set everything up for November? Which, I mean, I guess maybe that's not a problem. But that's been the traditional argument against this, right? Is that every game matters in college football. And if you make it like a 16-team playoff, then it's like, well, some of these games they're not nearly as devastating to you as a fan base, which that should be a good thing, right? Like we shouldn't be depressed for an entire 2 weeks.
Especially now, like as much parity as there is, and I know who's at the very top. But again, like I said, from 4 to 30, 4 to 40, it's pretty even. As much parity as there is in college football, it doesn't make any sense for one loss to crush you. Like teams have bad games. There are a lot of good players out there. Like you lose to bad teams all the time. Again, Alabama almost lost to that Florida team. Now, should that one game have kept them out of the playoff? Yeah, I don't know. Or the loss to A&M where they lost on a last-second field goal? Not that I'm waving pom-poms for Alabama to get more playoff opportunities, but so that's not even a good example. It's like, who would be a good example? Ohio State, maybe? Notre Dame losing to Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, teams like that. Like I think it makes every game more important because once you lose that game in September, you don't feel like you still feel like, all right, we're still good. We learned something from this. Now we move on. And we still can get in the playoff, like Clemson. That team, and credit to Dabo, I guess, for getting that team to rally up and win.
Palms for Alabama. We're giving props to Dabo.
I know.
What's going on here?
I know.
Come on, man.
I know. I'm not really making the greatest arguments in the world, but Clemson would have been a playoff team this year. Would they have won the championship? Absolutely not. Not with that dude at quarterback. Not with as bad as their offense was. But they would have been a playoff team. And after losing to Georgia and then losing whoever their second loss was to, Pitt maybe?
Yes.
That was a wrap on their
Wait,
season.
Was it? I shouldn't say
it might have been. I think it was Pitt. Maybe it was NC State.
Yes, that's for sure NC State, yes. Yeah.
So once they lost to NC State, they're like, that's a wrap. We got nothing to play for. Well, they would have had something to play for the rest of that. See, and they still played hard, especially on defense. But I think it's good for the fans to not think like a season is over in September. And we're getting there.
They lost both those teams. Let's go, Corey.
I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember which one they lost first. But yeah, I just think that that it makes the whole season more important. Where, it's weird. College football is the one sport where the postseason is anticlimactic. It's like you build towards the regular season, and other than those 3 games, I guess, nothing else matters, and you don't really care that much about it. But every other sport we watch, you're building towards the finale, the playoffs. In college football, you're really not yet, because it's just dumb to have a 14 playoff. Imagine the NFL with a 14 playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be the Bucks and the Packers.
Well, we've talked about it. There's how many great semifinal games have there been? I mean,
None.
the only one I can remember is Baker versus Georgia in 2017.
In the didn't Alabama Ohio State? That was a pretty good one. When Ohio State upset them.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. I don't think that was even that. I don't know.
Where,
I was so
Sims was the quarterback.
I was so hurt from what happened in the game.
Well,
before
right.
that
It was. I can tell you it was a much better game than the first semifinal that day. But yeah, so that's what I think is missing is more competitive playoff games. And look, okay, if there had been a 12-team playoff this year, Georgia probably still wins it, right? They beat the bejesus out of Michigan. They would have beaten the bejesus out of Cincinnati, maybe. Who knows? But, Michigan-Cincinnati might have been really competitive. Or Michigan-Clemson might have been really competitive. It was fun to watch. It's fun to watch even the Raiders-Bengals game. That was a fun, pretty competitive game. It was fun to watch Burrow do that. It was a really competitive game, actually. Didn't the Raiders get stopped on the final possession there? Because anyway, I won't get into the
strategery of everything.
Idiocy that football coaches continue to display about their sport, but strategic wise. But we both know that the Raiders and the Bengals aren't winning the Super Bowl. Right. That was still a really cool moment for Cincinnati fans.
Yeah.
To get to do that. So I just think we want to be more inclusive in college football now, with the way everything's changed, than to be less inclusive and just limit it to the. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm arguing about. It's going to happen. But the ACC, Phillips did come out. Did you see that on Friday?
Yes. We finally got there. Good.
Okay, sorry. That
no,
took
you're
too
fine.
long.
Nothing wrong with it. Just naturally walked into it. I like it, Corey. Carry on.
So his thought was he came out and said he's not for expansion right now. I don't think he said it in as many words, but basically he wants to get a big bump in TV pay, and then he'll sign off on it immediately. Basically right now, and at first when I saw it, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Just let's get this thing to 12 teams. Why are you doing this? Why are you going to be the lone holdout or one of the lone holdouts to expansion immediately? Because if you don't know, I don't think expansion, the contracts run till when, Aslan, 2026?
I think
Is that right?
I think through 2025, I'm not mistaken, but I'll fact check
either
that.
way, at least 3 or 4 years, 3 years or so. The current college football playoff format runs for at least 3 more years. They want to break it. They want to blow it up now, and if they could, they would start expansion next year for 2022, which I think we're all in favor. And I think even Phillips with the ACC is in favor. But he wants some concessions, I would imagine, because he actually, for the first time, and the only time maybe in ACC history, has some leverage. Because he can say no. And if they don't all sign off on it, then you can't break the contract. So he can say no unless we make these TV contracts more equitable, where one conference isn't getting $22 million a year per school, whatever that, what is that, $350 million, $250, whatever it is per year, more than another conference that's in the same boat, that's in the same playoff. So that's a good idea. Maybe he can get the SEC and the Big Ten to agree to maybe share more of the revenue. And if you do that, okay, we can start a playoff next year. In Sankey, you can have 7 teams in the playoff. Go for it, buddy. You can have the final 6 can all be the SEC, and y'all can all pat each other on the back and kiss each other on the neck. It'd be awesome, but we want more money than we're currently getting for this system because it's not fair, and it isn't fair. So I don't know if he said those words publicly. I don't think he did, but that's got to be the reason, right? That's the only leverage they have is they don't have – it's not fair to the ACC and the Big 12 to be part of this playoff format when they're making, again, like I said, $250, $300 million yet less per year than their counterparts. So use your leverage while you can. See if they cut that difference in half. Get each one of your schools an extra $10 million a year, and then, you'll sign off on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he put his foot down with a little more oomph than, Kliavkoff and Kevin Warren from the Big Ten. So, for a conference that's long been derided for not being football-centric and not having a commission as football first, despite John Swofford being a former collegiate football player in the ACC. Pretty cool to have a guy that's, all right, like it was crazy to kind of see the reaction on Twitter and everybody saying like Jim Phillips was poo-pooing on everybody's party. But as being a member institution of the Atlantic Coast Conference, it was like, all right, cool. I'm all about this. But I would think so because all this other stuff, I mean, the reasons he gave about, the athletic calendar is really long and, we can't even really understand the magnitude of how COVID has affected athletics now and going forward. And let's have like a 12-month sort of, period of judging and deliberating over where we want to move the sport. It's like, I mean, those are things that you don't need 12 months to figure those sort of things out. Not that you need 12 months to figure out coming to the table and negotiating TV rights deals, but it does feel like a Trojan horse of sorts. Like, all right, I got some concerns, but I'm sure Greg Sankey and company know that the real reason behind this is like, man, we're not gonna we're gonna just give you guys more spots and fall even further behind
for the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Or for still a huge discrepancy in money. Like, look, if you're willing to blow up the playoff contract, ESPN, then you're willing to blow up our current TV contract, and you can get us more on par with the SEC. We're all in it together. So why not, if you have 5 conferences, if you have 60 member schools that are essentially a part of this, I guess you throw the group of 5 in there. I guess you do. I don't know how that works, but they need a piece. But if you have the 5 main conferences as a part of this thing, and they all need to sign off for this to be a reality, well, then they should all be close in proximity to, to how much money each other is making. And you can't, it's just not fair otherwise. So and look, in 2026 or whenever that is, the leverage is gone. So it's more on the SEC making some concessions and saying, you know what? Maybe we don't need to make $26 million a year more than Florida State. Maybe Vanderbilt and Mississippi State don't need to make that much more money than Florida State. Why don't we cut that down to, let's say, $15 million a year more than Florida State and Clemson? And let's divvy up the rest of that money equally among the rest of the Power 5. That way it makes it a more it's more parity, number one. It makes it more, it's not a regional sport anymore. It's more national, like all that. And it's for the greater good, man. It's just for the greater good. You wish somebody, and maybe Phillips is the guy that's trying to do this. I don't know. You wish somebody would get into that room and say, this isn't viable long term. What you guys are doing is not viable. You have to make this an equal partnership or close to it. Like the NFL, like the NBA, like every other professional sport, which this is now, then just saying, okay, the Cowboys make $30 million a year more than the 49ers. And they get to spend $30 million a year more than the 49ers. But good luck, 49ers. Try to beat them in the playoffs. That's what's happening now, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reality, is that the Cowboys and 49ers spend the same exact amount of money on their rosters, which is why the NFL is
close
awesome.
enough. Not nearly. Again, not nearly.
They have the same amount to spend. Like
Yes.
whether one spends $2 million or more than the other, that's fine. But they have the same amount of money to spend. Alabama is in a different world than schools trying to compete for championships. So that's what they need to understand. The reason the NFL is so popular, it's so popular. Well, gambling helps, fantasy football helps, but so does the parity. Like 3 years ago, the Bucs were a laughingstock. Now they might be on their way to repeat Super Bowl champs. The 49ers have been bad. Now they're in the playoffs. The Bengals have been bad. They're in the playoffs. Now, the Bengals have been bad for a long time. The Browns will never do anything, apparently. Sorry, Stephanie. But they have their shot. That's on them. It's not like the Browns are financially unable to compete. They just don't make good decisions typically. That's the difference. And so that's just what college football needs. And I'll keep harping on that. Hopefully that happens, because as much as I love Georgia winning a national championship because I went to school there, the thought of Georgia and Alabama playing 5 more championships in the next 7 years is just boring, and it's bad for the sport.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's indescribably good
Player of the week.
You heard the man. It's time. I'm going to the Oval. Going track season. The indoor season started, Corey, on Friday for Florida State up in Clemson. Shout out to my Zaxby's indescribably good player of the week, Lauren Ryan. She ran the mile. It was her first time running the mile. She finishes first place. She gets a personal best time of 4 minutes, 38 seconds, and then 60/10ths of a second. That's incredible. A mile, and that's blazing fast. It ranks 10th in the top 10 all-time for Florida State, and it's the fastest time in the NCAA. Again, the season just started, but still, shout out Lauren Ryan, my Zaxby's indescribly good player of the week. Corey,
it was the first mile she'd ever run?
Yeah, man. First time competing in the mile. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's a good start.
Yeah.
I'll probably go back to the hardwood with my man Harrison Prieto.
Let's go.
Look, it should probably be Caleb Mills, 5 out of 6, 19 points. Had a couple nice assists, plays good defense too. But you kind of expect that from him. He scored 16 in the first game against Syracuse. The reason Florida State won with Osborne out is getting the weatherman to come off the bench, give him 3 steals. He was a plus 14 in 15 minutes, meaning for the people that don't know, there's a word there that I couldn't think of. For the 15 minutes he was on the court, Florida State outscored Syracuse by 14 points, which is a huge number. That's a huge plus minus. So it's not being pandering here. He was the difference. He just locked up things on D, made everything harder for Syracuse, and Florida State got a big road win to set up that monumental showdown on Tuesday night with the Dukies. So Harrison Prieto, my indescribably good player of the week.
Speaking of last week, cleaning up some stuff that happened after we didn't do a Friday show, but you get it, everybody. It's not football season. Football-centric show. Fabien Lovett announced he was returning, Corey. Something we were kind of waiting on. Felt that, I don't know, if you would asked me 2 months ago, I'd have thought he's as good as gone. And the longer it sort of went out, the longer we didn't hear from him, no news seemed like good news, if I could speak. Corey doesn't even have 2 functioning lugs, and he's figuring out how to do it.
I'm trying.
I have no excuse here. So as we record this, we'll try to get Langston on here in a little bit to talk about Cruton. They didn't add anybody in the transfer portal in the last 72 hours, which, can you believe it?
What's going on, Norvell?
The nerve, Mike Norvell.
But come on, dude. We're getting. I'm starting to get twitchy.
Some withdrawals.
Yeah.
The fact that they were able to have him come back, that's huge. That's a huge deal for a defensive line. I know we were talking about they need to add somebody. I think we were saying they need to add one more person on top of Jared Verse, it was still with the sort of assumption that Fabien was going to come back. But, if you would have lost Fabien, that's kind of a different athlete, a different presence on your defensive line than a pass rusher. Not that one's easier to find than the other, but you would have had to start kind of maybe pivoting and looking for somebody else. But this defense, which is kind of retooling itself with Tatum Bethune at linebacker, Greedy Vance, cornerback from, I think, Baton Rouge. I was at Louisville to help kind of shore up the back end. Fabien coming back is a big deal.
Oh, it's a huge deal. It's, I mean, when you think about this Florida State defense, that, again, wasn't great. I don't even know if it was good, but it was decent, which was a huge step up from what it had been. Would you say that, 5 of the top 7, maybe 10 of the top 12, I don't know, guys from that defense are coming back? Now that Lovett's coming back, Cooper's back, Deloach is back, Jamie Robinson is back. Now you're talking about, the best players on that defense aside from the 2 defensive ends, which are clearly big losses. But, yeah, man, that's really good news. That's like, because I would have thought like maybe in October, early November. Now, look, Lovett wasn't going to be a first-round pick, but he's an NFL football player, I think. So I would have thought he would bounce because that's just the nature of the sport these days. You at least go test it out. I would have thought he'd have bounced. So it's almost like getting 2 more portal pickups from where we thought they were at least where I thought they were in October and November. Like, you're not going to have to replace Lovett with pick someone, Malcolm Ray.
Yeah.
Like, Malcolm Ray needs to get better, and he needs to provide depth, and he needs to play, but you don't go into the season wondering if your defensive tackles can play at this level. By God, they both can. Cooper and Lovett have done some things. They're good football players. So all of a sudden, you kind of like what you have on defense. You're still short a few things, but your defensive line, a month ago, I might have thought this defensive line was going to be not just a question mark, but a weakness. Now I don't think that. It might not be. It's not going to be the strength that it was in 2021, but I don't think it's going to be a glaring weakness either. You have two NFL-ish defensive tackles that we think can both play. Lovett, I think, is probably the better prospect of the 2, but they're good players, man. They serve their roles, and they're good at what they do. And then you have one defensive end who apparently is a freak, who you got for 2 more years. So, and a linebacker that you can plug and play immediately. So, yeah, man, your defense, again, that's getting Fabien Lovett to come back. Imagine if Fabien Lovett had transferred to NC State for his last year. That'd be a huge get for NC State, right? Wow. Yeah. All right, that's great. That's an immediate first-day starter, has played at this level, good player, maybe an NFL guy. Well, Florida State got that guy to come back. So, again, wasn't a portal get, but the offseason of all offseasons for Mike Norvell continues. It's like every day is good news. I know I'm jinxing it, folks. I'm knocking on wood as I'm talking. There hasn't been, since what happened in Suwanee, Georgia, there hasn't been any bad news, has there? Really?
Yeah.
It's all been good news. That's good stuff, man. All right, Norvell, I like it. Now it's January. It ain't October. We'll see if we're still singing the praises of the guy in October. But, man, it's been a really good 6 weeks for Florida State.
Yeah. And a couple quick hitters on our way out. We'll have Michael Langston talking recruiting here coming up. Mackenzie Milton finished out his collegiate career. I don't know if there's any other showcase he might play in that Hula Bowl game out there in Orlando. So I think he was, I thought I had it right there in front of me. 5 of 9 for 32 yards in one quarter of play. So
okay, all right, that's something.
We'll take it. We will take it there. I think Kier was also in that game, if not mistaken. Devontae Love Taylor of Trench Talk fame. So those gentlemen trying to stack some good tape and help their next jump in their careers. And I did want to mention this about the NFL playoffs on a little bit of a heavier note. I hope that everything's all right with Josh Sweat. Didn't realize I saw that he was going to miss the game, but they said he apparently had like a life-threatening condition, like a ruptured appendix or something along those lines. But apparently I think he's doing fine now. But he signed that big contract to start the season off, so hope he'll be all right. And more evidence that I'm getting old. You already know that you're old, Corey. I saw on Twitter that I think Fabien Walker's got a son who was like first team All-County, according to the AJC, or he's like projected that for 2023. And then apparently Alonzo Jackson, he's got a son that apparently
Okay.
has been on campus. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that you
old.
are getting old, buddy.
I'm getting
Trust
old.
me,
These
man.
These guys got.
Wait
kids.
until you're older than the head coach of the team you cover.
Well, I think. No, yeah, I'm not.
You're not. You're not. But wait till you are. Luckily, that can't happen in basketball here for a while. But man, that's a weird. That's always a weird thing too. Like I remember when I was going through it, like when I was in college, because I grew up, idolizing the Florida State players, and Sammy Smith was my hero, and Dion was my hero. Benedict Sanders is what I call him now. Everyone.
Right,
and then you get to be their age, and you're like, well, this is weird. I mean, Warwick Dunn's cool. I'm a big fan of him, but we're the same age. It's odd to you can't idolize people that your own age, can you? Doesn't that seem weird to do
it
that?
does. No, it absolutely does. Yeah.
It's like my rule about jerseys. You can't. At least it's my rule, and I don't wear jerseys anyway. But I wouldn't wear a jersey of somebody younger than me. Like I would wear a throwback of William Andrews or Dion or somebody like that for the Falcons. But I wouldn't wear I don't know.
Jones.
Yeah, Julio Jones jersey.
Kyle Pitts jersey.
Kyle Pitts jersey. Isn't that weird? Like a 45-year-old man wearing a 20-year-old's jersey? I don't know. Maybe it's because the Falcons haven't had enough good players for me to ever even think about it. I wouldn't go wear a Trae Young jersey. He's 21. He grew up on Snapchat. I can't wear his jersey. He should be wearing my jersey. Hey, have you watched any good shows lately? I wanted to give a recommendation before we go out.
Oh yeah, you do. We're on our way out.
All right. By the way, where we at Tinder wise? We doing all right? Dabbling?
Yeah, we went out. I went out second date Thursday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. We made it to 2, which is better.
Does she
than
know
1.
what you do?
Vaguely, I think. I've given her the rundown of what I do, but I haven't said that oh, you're going to be the next featured guest on Tinder Thursdays with Corey Clark and myself.
But I wonder, if you tell somebody that you host a daily podcast or mostly daily podcast,
what's it about? And I'm like, it's about Florida State sports. They're like, oh,
but
I'm
she
like, yeah, it's not about
She
murder
wouldn't go
mysteries,
listen.
sorry.
If she told you she hosted a podcast about banking,
right,
or contract law,
okay,
would you go listen at least to a few minutes?
That's a good question. Maybe at a certain point, I've hit this sort of, I have this unwritten kind of rule where I won't even try to look up a girl's Facebook, which I probably should, so I could see more photos of them or get a kind of idea of their personality. But I think there's some stuff you need to kind of learn about somebody organically. I don't think you need to be able to research and look it up, but I think maybe after date number 3 I would. But I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe because not contract law, but it was something I had interest in. No offense.
No,
to
that's the whole
contract
point.
lawyers
It's got to be something you don't have interest in.
Oh, right.
But you're
right.
interested in her.
Yeah.
So you want to hear what her personality is like, at least before they get into the nuts and bolts of the contract. Yeah. They hey, how was your weekend? How'd everything go? And you can see then what her personality's like. I think that's a good glimpse into you.
Okay.
To hear you on this show. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I appreciate it. All right. Give us a TV recommendation, Corey.
Oh, first, I also wanted to say apologies to Pillar, Eric Angel. I guess he had an interview. By the way, good luck. I hope the interview went well. He's a Pillar. People know him from the live show.
That's right.
But I wasn't able to hang out this weekend. Still trying to get over, I'm just trying to be careful. Didn't feel all that great. So that's why, I wasn't out and about on Saturday. But my recommendation, I got 2. I got Yellow Jackets.
Okay, so there we go.
That was the season finale was Sunday night. Haven't watched it as we're talking to this, but good show. Station 11. Another, I like that show a lot. I think it's based on a book, but it's about a global pandemic, so we can all relate. It was made, I think, before the pandemic, or at least the book was written before the pandemic. Anyway, it's interesting and good. But I wanted to give a shout out to, if you listen to headlines, I was a big fan of the documentary Cheer. You remember that, right, Aslan? The thing on Netflix about the cheerleading, the cheerleading team from Navarro College in Texas.
Missed that
Junior
one.
college?
I missed that
Okay.
one.
Well, anyway, so they made fun of me on headlines because of, and I'll bring this up on headlines too, but they made fun of me because I was such a big fan of that show because it's junior college cheerleading. But they do a really good job of, it's it's kind of like Last Chance U, but for cheerleaders.
Awesome.
But my favorite character on the first season was this guy named Jerry Harris, who was just very lovable, and everybody loved him. Seemed like a really cool kid, a great teammate, yada, yada. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get into the details of what he did because it's a family show. But after the show aired, he got arrested on federal charges for something he should not have been doing and a bad crime. And I was so when I knew they came out with the second season of Cheer, I thought they would gloss over it, like just say, oh, and they would do like 5 minutes of it. Like, oh, and Jerry's not here anymore. He was arrested. Oh, I was really devastated when I found out. And they go back on with the practices. But no, they dedicate a whole show to it. It really dive in deep. And I just thought that I wanted to give them credit. Like, I know these things are reality. They're not all reality based. But there was some integrity there to that show, focusing so much on that one incident that I wanted to give them a shout out. So anyway, if you're not into cheerleading, probably aren't going to like it. I'm not into cheerleading, though, and I like it. So come on, guys. Maybe go watch Yellow Jackets first. Okay. That's just about a girls' soccer team apparently cannibalizing themselves.
Sweet. Oh, and also shout out to listener Brian. Bumped into him at Home Depot last week. So he's a big fan of the show. So.
Oh, all right.
Thanks, Brian.
What was he buying?
I didn't see he was already in his truck and kind of backing out. I was like walking out my car. I was like, hey, Aslan. I'm like, yeah. He's like, love the show. I'm like, all right, thanks, man.
What were you buying?
I was going in to buy hardware for my this new buffet table I bought. I wanted to swap out the handles on it, make it look more uniform.
Nice. You're going to start having buffets?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Midtown office is going to turn up here, man. We got to get ready for the climb. You know, we're going to have pre-game, post-game parties here. You know, it's going to be magical.
I can't wait.
All right, we'll be back with another. We're going to go live show this week, right? Live show, live.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. The plan might be to do it before the Duke game, like on Tuesday night, before the Duke game, and then we'll add on how the game went afterwards. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just gonna be hard because I'm traveling on Wednesday, or we could do it Thursday. It's your call, my man.
All right. Well, we'll figure that out us too. We'll do our jobs.
Okay.
Jeff Cameron, 1 to 3. That's coming up. But Michael Langston talking recruiting right now. Well, actually, after this commercial break. All right, let's get to. We got Michael Langston, who's just busy, man. He and Austin Cox just live, breathe everything recruiting out front the Moore Center at all hours of all days. I got 3 things I want to hit up with you real quick, Michael. But
okay.
You're doing well though, right?
I'm great,
as well as anybody could be in your circumstances.
Yep, I'm great.
Okay, let's go 3 things here. First off, quarterback class of 2023, Chris Parson. You know, we thought Luke Altmaier was going to be the bell cow. Big shot guy that Mike Norvell is going to be able to bring in. That didn't work out. They do bring in A.J. Duffy, but, man, Chris Parson is a guy that just seems so intriguing on film. He's a guy that was on campus in Tallahassee this past weekend. What were your big takeaways from his visit to Tallahassee?
I think the big thing from him is, like, one, he wants to show people, like, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm locked in. I'm not even going to visit other schools. I'm not even going to give a chance there be a Travis Hunter situations. Like, I'm locking it down. You know, I'm locked into FSU, and that's important for your top recruiter to have a guy that if you're going to lead the class and you recruit other players, they need to know that you're all in with that place. And so that was one of my takeaways. And the other takeaways was this guy understands just how important recruiting is for FSU as far as him recruiting other guys. And I think he was extremely active this weekend. I mean, you could saw that with all the different guys he was around. And I've never seen a recruit get out of the car as fast as he did when he arrived at FSU, and just that much excitement. So you could tell this guy is genuinely excited about where this is going with FSU and the program. So that kind of emotion, I think is captivating to a lot of recruits when they see that kind of energy. Obviously, with A.J. Duffy, it's more talking behind the scenes and stuff he did and actions as far as how A.J. played. But with Chris, it's more energy-wise. You see it when you're around him. And I think a lot of the recruits fed off his energy this week that were there that aren't committed to FSU. And I think it certainly helped with, we talked about the offensive linemen and those guys that they're after. And then obviously the other receivers. I think his energy, I think a lot of recruits feed off that.
Parson, 4-star, or actually, no, he's a 3-star right now, which is just ridiculous, right? That's going to change, I would think.
I would think so.
Yeah. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. Austin Cox chipped in with a write-up about a trio of offensive line visitors. Two probably a little bit more pressing for Florida. Just real quick, there's a kid from Trinity in Ocala, which is just it's the Armwood almost. Although Armwood it changed eventually. Armwood we got a couple dudes, but they're no longer here. But Lucas Simmons, Roderick McKierney, how impressed were you by? I don't know. Listen, they're human beings. We get it. But just looking at them physically, off the hoof, what were your thoughts of those two dudes?
They looked phenomenal, especially Roderick. His body frame looks so good. Obviously, he's around his size. I would say 6'4". Obviously, he's still growing because he's only a junior right now. So going into the senior year, that's a kid probably going to be 6'5". So I was very impressed with just his frame. He looked like an FSU player. When you look at him, obviously without the toning and all that stuff, but I think Roderick looked phenomenal. And Lucas wasn't like totally thin rail skinny, but he was very tall, but he had some size and girth to him, even at 6'7", I think 300 pounds. So I think I was impressed with both of them, just how the frames and how they looked. And then, I didn't expect both of them to just come out and say, hey, FSU's my leader or the team that stands out. I was expecting hey, positive energy as far as how they feel about FSU. Like, hey, it was really good. I'm really high on them. But I think the fact that they came out and said FSU is the team, I think that said a lot about, what Atkins is doing on that offensive line. I think it says a lot about how it's amazing in 2 years how much the difference of the way recruits and people view the FSU offensive line compared to 2 or 3 years ago when it was the worst offensive line in the country. So it's you see that and the recruits' appeal to it is so much higher now. And I think these two guys were only just an example of that. I think both of them are probably going to be 4-star prospects. And I think Roderick's the guy that they want the most. But I think it was a really positive weekend as far as offensive line recruiting for FSU.
Roger Kearney, 6'4", 300 pounds out of Orange Park. And then Lucas Simmons, 6'7", 300 out of Clearwater Academy International. Never even heard of the place. I'm from Clearwater. Shout out, Lucas. Put us on the map. Put him on the map. All right, last one on your way out, Michael. Again, man, we appreciate your time. If you want more, I know you got millions of questions you want to ask Michael Langston, but this is not a recruiting chat. But if you post it on the premium recruiting board, I can almost assure you Michael will find it and he will answer it because that's what Michael Langston does. But the portal. How about Lee Hunter? Should we be like, oh, hey, remember us? Lee Hunter, defensive tackle out of Pritchard, Alabama, out of Blount High School, committed to Auburn. Don't think he got much, if any, burn this past season.
Right.
With who knows what's going on there, Brian Harsin and everything. But he was almost a Ravels 100 guy. He was 121st ranked prospect in the entire nation from last recruiting cycle. Is that a guy you think, would that make sense? Maybe a rekindling of the relationship between Florida State and Lee Hunter?
It made sense to me when I first saw him enter the portal. And so once I did that, I reached out to an FSU contact, waited for them to call me. They got back on me and said probably not likely that they pursue. But it would make a lot of sense when you consider, he hasn't played. He's basically essentially a true freshman. But obviously it also concerns you when guys don't play at all, get any burn. That kind of concerns you about, is it injury related? What is it that's at least keeping him off the field totally? So I think, UCF would make a lot of sense to me because Malzahn, obviously, there's some coaches on that staff that he knows, but I haven't heard anything with FSU to lead me to believe that they're going to pursue at this point.
Are things going to slow down at any point this winter for you, Michael? Or are you just going to be nonstop?
No, it's slowed down a lot. Believe it or not, I am somewhat slowed down because you've already got 9 guys in the fold for the transfer portal. So, there's several positions left, like running back, quarterback, offensive tackle, maybe a linebacker. So there's 4 spots that would probably be left. So it's going to make FSU a lot more selective. So it'll be a little less challenging for me just because they're going to be more selective compared to, what they had to do before where, they're balls to the wall. They're going after these guys, bam, all the time. But now I think it's slowed down some. But yeah, it's going to be fairly active, Aslan, until they meet that quota of every guy they want. So it could last all the way up to December. So if it is, it's whatever. But we're going to stay on it. I'll be on it. And I said it before. Once they got versed, my feelings are that it's kind of going downhill now. Like, because you've hit the guy that you had to have because you didn't land Marvin Jones, you didn't land these defensive ends, so you got a guy. So ever since then, I think it's just been kind of downhill. Now they can be a little more selective with your quarterback, your running back, these rest of these positions. So I think they're going to fill them. I think they're going to fill most of them. But yeah, I can't really put a timeline on how long it's going to take. Trust me, I hope it's this month. That would be nice. But either way, I'll be there, and any news that's new with the transfer portal, I'll certainly address it. I've already got a thread going, with our portal tracker that's on our site. Obviously, I did a recruiting wrap from this weekend with the mini junior day, so to speak, and so everything's there for you guys. If there's any new guy on the portal, I will certainly address it on the PRB.
Boom. I mean, I don't have to say it. Michael just said it. Hit the thumbs up on your ad, everybody. Michael
there
Langston, everybody. Recruiting Lines for WarChant.com. For he and Corey Clark, I'm Aslan. We say thank you for listening to Wake Up WarChant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.